Here is how we attach 2 panels or sew 2 pieces together with our crochet hook. I've got my 2 sample pieces. You want to make sure that the project that you're working, that the wrong sides are facing outwards, that your work is inside, because when you open it up and flip it right side out, the right side will be showing and your stitch work will be inside the project. So we're going to pretend that these are the wrong sides on the out, and then we'll get going. You can see that on this stitch work, it's just the top. You want to make sure it's matched, that the stitch work is matched up with each other, and you'll just be going directly across with your hook. So we'll put a slip knot onto our hook and we'll get going. So you want to put your hook under the first 2 loops of the first panel and then under the 2 loops on your second panel, and you will take your yarn and you'll pull it through and do a slip stitch. Put your hook in under the 2 on both panels, pull through, slip stitch. This is a really secure way to help these edges support weight, especially if you're using a garment. It's really secure, and it helps bear the weight of however heavy your project is. So keep going with your hook under both sets of loops and slip stitch it on the top. It will form a ridge, but that will only be seen on the inside of your work, not the outside. So under the 2 loops of your first panel, under the first 2 loops of your second panel, and slip stitch. Okay, and we've made it to the end. This is knotted already because it was a slip stitch on your hook, but to end it, you slip stitch through there and then cut it and tie it off, weave in your ends. As you open it up, it looks like that. And it's brought those pieces together nicely. Using the same colored yarn allows that to be not noticeable. So make sure that you are using the same yarn as what you would like to conceal with the rest of your project. So now say you've got an edge that doesn't have these single crochets on the top and it looks like this. You kind of just make it work with what you have. And as long as you're keeping it as close to the edge as possible, it won't be as noticeable. So I just kind of found my way in there. I can kind of see these 2 loops right here. So on this one and on this one, and I'll slip stitch it right there. Just want to make sure it's even where you're putting your hook in, and it matches with the other panel, and you're consistent that way, because then it will look complete and no side will be, longer than the other. But yeah, use your eyes, use your best judgment, because it's not as straightforward as the top stitches as it was earlier. But there's that ridge, and that's what it looks like on the right side of your work. So we just did the crochet hook, and now we're going to be using our tapestry needle. This is for a more clean, hidden look on the inside of your work, but it might not be as strong. It also works up really, really fast. So if you're in a hurry and you don't want to take the time to have to crochet every single thing, then there's that too. This option exists. Anyway, so we've threaded our needle. You want to leave. The other thing I've noticed with tapestry needle is I never really know how much yarn I need to use. If I crochet it, I can just keep using the same ball of yarn or cake. But for this, I kind of have to guess what I want to do. So this is probably too long for just this little sample. But you kind of just have to guess sometimes. So with your tapestry needle, again, you're going to have the wrong side facing out. The right side of your work will be on the inside. You're going to be doing a whip stitch. So take your yarn, insert it in, just like your crochet hook. Pull it through. And then you're just going to come across. So we just went in through here and came to the second panel. You're going to go back across to the first panel to the second. And pull your tail through. And then just make sure, again, that everything matches. Your panel sides match and that you're going in a similar stitch every time. Going from first panel to second panel to first panel to second panel. And you can see it's making these little loops right here. And you can also see that that's all you've got connecting everything, so that's why it might not be as secure as if you were using slip stitches with your crochet hook. It still looks good, it still holds. It's just not as strong. But whatever you want to do. For garments, I would suggest using the crochet hook method, but for like granny squares or for blankets, this one is perfect. Get through as much of the project as you possibly can, and it will hold just nicely. Okay. So you'd cut off an end here, you'd fasten it off, weave the ends in, do the same on this side, and this is what it looks like on the right side of your work. Just a nice whip stitch. Same thing with working down the sides. If it's not as obvious where to put your stitches, just make sure you're putting it in on the exact same spot on the other panel. So go in there. And just making sure that your length is the same. If you do find a panel that's not the same length, say it's kind of going like this, you're able to kind of make it so that it's even by skipping a stitch somewhere, because it will pull tight and it will look even at the end.